We need to talk. I want an open marriage. You can't give me children. Someone else can.
She didn't cry when her husband told her she was worthless. She cried when she realized he was right. No job, no money, no name in a city that wasn't hers. Victoria Lawson stood in the middle of her own penthouse in Seoul, Korea, watching the man she'd sacrificed everything for walk down the hallway, with another woman's pregnancy scan folded neatly in his jacket pocket. He didn't even look back. And that, right there, that was the moment Victoria stopped being a wife and started becoming something far more dangerous. 6 hours earlier, she had been setting the dinner table. She'd cooked herself, something she rarely did anymore. But tonight felt like a night worth trying. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of fertility clinics, hormone injections, failed cycles, and dinners eaten in silence. She wanted to do something soft, something that reminded them both of why they'd started. Kim Jae-won walked through the door at 9 p.m., smelling like a woman Victoria didn't recognize. He set his briefcase down without looking at her. "We need to talk," he said. Victoria's hand stilled over the table. Those 4 words. The universal signal that your life is about to be rearranged without your permission. She turned slowly, already feeling the ground tilt beneath her feet. "I want an open marriage," Jae-won said, flat, clean, like a business memo. "You can't give me children, someone else can, and I intend to find her." The room went completely silent. Not the polite kind of silence. The kind that fills your lungs like cold water and doesn't leave. Victoria didn't scream, didn't throw anything. She stood completely still, because somewhere deep inside her, something had been waiting for exactly this moment. She just hadn't been brave enough to name it out loud. "You've already found her," she said carefully. "Haven't you?" Jae-won straightened his cufflink. "Her name is Seo-yeon. She's 12 weeks pregnant. I want her moved into the guest suite by Friday." "This is our home," Victoria whispered. "This is my home," he corrected, his voice almost bored. "Your name isn't on the deed. Your name isn't on the accounts. You gave up your career. You have no income, no job, and no family in this country." He picked up his phone and began scrolling. "So I would think very carefully about how difficult you want to make this." He walked away. Victoria stood alone in a room full of food she had cooked for a man who no longer considered her a person. Welcome back, everyone. This story is going to wreck you emotionally, rebuild you, and leave you absolutely breathless. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because you do not want to miss a single second of what's about to happen. Let's get into it. But what Victoria didn't know yet was that her husband had been hiding a secret for 5 years. A secret that would eventually burn his entire world to the ground. That night, she packed 1 bag. Not 2. Just 1. She moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who understood that if she slowed down, she would collapse completely. She left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. No note, no explanation, just the ring sitting there like a period at the end of a very long, very painful sentence. She checked into the Shilla Hotel and went straight to the bar. Red wine. Expensive. She didn't care about the price. Jae-won's card still worked, and she had exactly 24 hours before he thought to cancel it. She sat in the corner of a bar full of Seoul's elite, and she quietly fell apart in a way that looked, from the outside, like perfect composure. "You're either very calm," the voice beside her said, "or you're about to destroy someone's life." Victoria turned. For 3 full seconds, she forgot how to breathe. The man was, there was simply no other word for it, devastating. Tall, Korean, late 30s, built like someone had designed him specifically to make rooms go quiet. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that cataloged everything without appearing to move. Black hair pushed back with the kind of effortlessness that cost a fortune to achieve. His suit was so perfectly constructed, it looked less like clothing and more like intention. He was the kind of man that entire rooms noticed before he said a single word. He didn't smile. He just looked at her, steady, unhurried, like he had already decided she was worth whatever came next. Mind if I sit? He said. Victoria gestured at the empty stool. Her voice, when it came, was impressively steady. Free country. He sat, ordered whiskey. Didn't speak immediately, just existed beside her with this unsettling, almost dangerous calm. Like a storm that knew exactly how much damage it was capable of, and had simply chosen, for now, not to. Chang Mao, he said finally. Victoria, American? The corner of his mouth moved, just barely. I know. She didn't mean to tell him everything, but his eyes were the kind that made you feel like the only person in a very large room. So she talked. About Jaewon. About 5 years of fertility treatments that made her feel like a machine failing its one purpose. About Seoyeon, 12 weeks along, already being measured for a guest suite in Victoria's home. About giving up everything, her career, her independence, her sense of self, for a man who had just informed her she was a convenience with an expiration date. Chang listened. No interruptions, no hollow sympathy. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. What if you didn't just survive this? He said, voice low and precise. What if you made him pay for it? Victoria laughed, short, bitter. He controls everything. The money, the apartment, the social connections. I have nothing. He controls everything you allowed him to control. Chung leaned forward slightly, just slightly. But the whole atmosphere of the bar shifted like a pressure change before a storm. Let me be your boyfriend. Publicly, loudly, everywhere. He can see us. Let him watch you thrive with the one man in Seoul he fears most. Why would you do that? She asked. Because Kim Jae-won has been a thorn in my business for 3 years. A pause. And because I saw you 6 months ago at a charity event at the Loda Hotel. You wore burgundy. Your husband didn't speak to you the entire evening. His voice dropped. Quiet, almost private, meant only for her. I spent most of that night thinking someone should tell you how remarkable you looked, standing there completely alone. Victoria's breath caught. You remember that? I remember everything. Something moved behind his eyes, deliberate, unhurried, certain. The way you held your wine glass. The way you smiled at the waitstaff even though your eyes were exhausted. The way he touched your shoulder exactly once, and it looked like a chore. His gaze stayed on hers. I didn't approach you because you were married, and I respect that line. A beat. He erased that line himself. Tonight. Silence stretched between them, warm and electric and a little bit terrifying. This stays fake, Victoria said. Her voice wavered on the last word. Chung Mao's smile was slow, patient, deeply, infuriatingly certain. We'll see. The next morning, movers arrived at Jae-won's penthouse while he was at his office. Chung had arranged everything. A text at 7 a.m., brief and precise. Movers at 10. New address attached. Consider the apartment your power base. Victoria supervised every single box. Her design portfolio, her grandmother's jewelry, her personal photographs, everything that was hers and only hers. She took nothing Jae-won had bought. She left the guest suite pristine, ready and waiting for Seoyeon. She left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. No note, no goodbye. Just the ring, and the echo of a woman who had finally decided she was done. Jae-won called 11 times before noon. On the 12th, she answered, "Where are you?" Tight, controlled, the voice of a man who had never once considered she might actually leave. "Living my life," Victoria said. "You wanted an open marriage. Congratulations, I accepted." She hung up, blocked his number, and felt, for the first time in 5 years, like she could actually breathe. That evening, a stylist arrived with garment bags and an energy that suggested she had dressed the most powerful women in Seoul and knew exactly what weapons looked like. Her name was Minji. 2 assistants. A makeup kit that belonged in a museum. Music playing low in the background. "Mr. Chang sent me," she said with a knowing smile. "He wants you unforgettable tonight." For 2 hours, Victoria was transformed. The dress was black, Deep, architectural, with a neckline that was somehow both restrained and completely devastating. Her natural hair, which Jaewon's mother had always quietly criticized, was styled full and beautiful, framing her face like a crown she'd always been meant to wear. Her makeup made her brown, skin glow, her eyes impossible to look away from. Minji stepped back, tilted her head. "He's not going to be able to look at anything else tonight," she said. Victoria wasn't entirely sure which he she meant. She suspected it didn't matter. The car arrived at 7. A black Maybach. A driver who opened the door without a word. Chang was already inside, in a tuxedo that looked like it had been tailored for the specific purpose of making jaws drop. He turned when she slid in, and something moved across his face. Fast and unguarded, almost controlled in time. Almost. "You look..." "Don't," Victoria said, because if he finished that sentence correctly, she would not survive the evening intact. He smiled. "Let it go. Jaewon will be there." "Good. He's going to lose his mind." Victoria looked out at Seoul, glittering past the window. "Better." Chang's hand found the small of her back as they stepped onto the red carpet, and the cameras erupted. Inside the ballroom, it took Victoria exactly 30 seconds to find Jaewon. He was near the bar with Seo-yeon, performing the role of powerful man for a circle of investors. Then he looked up and went completely, entirely pale. His eyes moved from Victoria's face to the dress, to Chang Mao's hand resting with quiet possession at her waist. His glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Seo-yeon followed his gaze. Her smile flickered out like a candle in wind. "Don't look at him," Chang murmured near her ear. "Let him come to you." "How long?" Victoria asked quietly. 30 seconds. It took 20. Jaewon crossed the room like a storm wearing a suit, fury barely contained beneath the surface of his polish. "Victoria, we need to talk. Now." Chang turned slowly, hand extended. "Chang Mao, we haven't been formally introduced." Jaewon ignored it entirely. "I know who you are. What is this?" "A wonderful evening," Victoria said pleasantly. "Why? You are still my wife." "In an open marriage," she finished, "which means I can see whoever I choose. Exactly the same way you're seeing Seo-yeon." She sipped her champagne. "Unless the rules only applied to me?" The muscle in Jaewon's jaw locked. "You're embarrassing both of us. People are watching." "You designed this marriage to be open?" Victoria said, voice dropping to something quiet and precise and absolutely immovable. "I opened it." A pause. "You're welcome." Chang said nothing. He didn't need to. His presence alone was the entire statement, and every person in that ballroom who knew Seoul's business world understood it immediately. Jaewon left, pulling Seo-yeon by the arm. Not looking back, because looking back would mean admitting that he had lost something he didn't realize he needed until it was standing next to his greatest rival in a black dress, smiling. Later that night, Chung showed her his phone in the car. Photos already circulating. Society pages, business blogs, entertainment accounts trying to piece together why Chang Mao, billionaire, untouchable, the man Seoul's underworld moved carefully around, was suddenly and very publicly with an American woman who happened to be Kim Jae-won's wife. "By tomorrow," Chung said, "every investor in Jae-won's circle will be asking questions about stability, about judgment, about what kind of man loses control of his household this publicly." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Panicking men make mistakes, and Jae-won is very much panicking." Victoria stared at a photo, her and Chang on the red carpet, his hand at her back, both of them looking forward like they owned everything between them. And in the background, barely visible, Jaewon watching them from across the ballroom. The look on his face was something she had never seen there before. Loss. "And the job?" she asked. Chang looked at her steadily. "You're a graphic designer. You gave up your career for a man who threw you away the moment you stopped being useful. I need a creative director for my brand. Division. The work is real. The pay is serious. A pause. I'm not saving you, Victoria. I'm investing in you. There is a difference. She looked at him for a long moment. Okay, she said. I'll take it. Monday morning, she walked into Changmao Industries like she already half-owned it. Her team was skeptical. She was the boss's rumored girlfriend. The charity hire, the American who probably couldn't tell a brand strategy from a Pinterest board. She proved every single one of them wrong inside of a week. The rebrand she developed for Chang's luxury property division came back from investors with full approval and a request to expand the scope. Her creative director started talking about pulling her into a campaign that hadn't even been announced publicly yet. Seoul noticed. That's Kim Jae-won's wife. She's with Chang Mao now. Have you seen her? She looks completely different. She looks like herself. Jae-won's voicemails accumulated. Increasingly desperate, increasingly small. She deleted every single one without finishing them. Then Chang told her the truth. They were at his home, a modernized Hanok house in Bugaksan, cedar and quiet and warm light. Over dinner, his expression shifted into something careful and deliberate. I need to tell you something about Jae-won, and I need you to hear all of it before you respond. Victoria set down her fork. I had people look into his medical history. I know that's a line, and I'm telling you directly because you deserve to know every word of this. Chung held her gaze without flinching. Jae-won was diagnosed with a severe sperm motility disorder when he was 27 years old, 1 year before he met you. His doctors told him his chance of natural conception was under 4%. The room went completely still. He knew, Chung said quietly, before he married you. Before his mother spent 5 years looking at you like you were defective. Before every injection, every procedure, every month you sat in that clinic chair and believed with your whole heart that your body was the problem. He already knew. He knew from the beginning. His jaw tightened. And his mother paid the fertility specialist to keep it buried. I have the bank transfers. Victoria didn't speak for a long time. 5 years. 5 years of believing she was broken. 5 years of Jae-won's mother carrying that particular breed of polite contempt reserved for women who couldn't perform their most fundamental function. 5 years of treatments that made her hate her own reflection. 5 years of silence at dinner tables and monthly heartbreak and the slow, grinding erosion of believing you had any value at all. And Jae-won had known. From the very first day, when the rage arrived, it came quietly, not screaming, not falling apart. It came the way certainty comes, slow and complete and absolutely permanent. I want to destroy him, she said. I know. Chang's voice was steady, even. And we will, but we do it correctly. We do it in a way he cannot survive professionally, personally, or publicly. We do it so that every person who watched his mother treat you like a burden understands exactly who was broken in that marriage. And it was never you. He leaned forward. Trust me. She looked at this man across the table. This careful, dangerous, surprisingly honest man who had walked into the worst night of her life and somehow become the most straightforward person in it. Okay, she said. Chang arranged comprehensive fertility testing for Victoria at Seoul's most respected clinic. Independent specialists, certified results, sealed and verified by 3 separate physicians. The results were unambiguous, perfectly fertile. Not a single concern. The kind of clean report that, placed quietly beside Jae-won's hidden diagnosis, told the entire story without requiring a single direct accusation. Chang leaked it the elegant way. Not to press. Not in a statement. In quiet conversation at a private investor dinner, a passing mention that his partner had recently received full medical confirmation of her health. Nothing more. Seoul's elite did the math themselves. They always do. Within days, it was everywhere. Jae-won's wife is perfectly fertile, which means 5 years of blame, 5 years of treatments, the open marriage? The problem was always him. His mother knew. She paid to hide it. Seo-yeon still isn't pregnant after 3 months. Investors pulled back. Partnerships stalled. His mother called Victoria 23 times in a single day, screaming about family honor. Victoria blocked every number without a second thought. Then Jae-won appeared in the lobby of Changmao Industries, suit wrinkled, hair undone, eyes carrying the specific, wild look of a man watching everything he built slide past the point of recovery. Victoria came down herself. "You destroyed me," he said. "You destroyed yourself," she replied, voice clean and even. "The morning you decided I was disposable. The day you married me already knowing the truth. Every year you watched your mother blame me for something you caused." She held his gaze. "I just made sure everyone else could see what you'd already decided a long time ago." "Victoria, please. Sign the divorce papers," she said, "or I release the bribery documentation. Criminal fraud, medical records. Your mother could go to prison. Your family name would be finished." She tilted her head slightly. "Your choice. You have 48 hours." 3 days later, the signed papers arrived at Chang's office. Victoria held them, just for a moment. Then she set them down and exhaled, 5 full years of compressed breath leaving her body in one long, quiet release. Chang appeared in the doorway. He watched her without speaking, the way he always did when he understood that some moments didn't need words added to them. "It's done," she said. He crossed the room slowly. His hand came up and brushed a single tear from her cheek, one she hadn't even realized was there. "You won," he said quietly. "We won," she corrected. Something moved across his face, unhurried, unguarded, not even slightly hidden. "Victoria." He said her name like it meant something specific to him. "This stopped being strategy for me a long time ago. Maybe the first night, maybe before." His eyes searched hers. "I need you to know that." Later that night, they walked along the Han River. The city glittered across the water. The air was cold, and Seoul at night looked like it had been designed for exactly the kinds of moments that change everything. Victoria felt it before she understood it. A wave of nausea, sudden and overwhelming, hitting without warning. She stopped walking, pressed her hand to her mouth. Chang was beside her instantly. "Hey!" She breathed through it. It passed. But something sharp and quiet clicked into place in her mind. Her period was 2 weeks late. She looked at him slowly. He was already looking at her, and his expression told her he had just done the exact same calculation. "We need to stop somewhere," she said. The pharmacy was quiet. 3 tests. Different brands. Victoria locked herself in the penthouse bathroom, hands unsteady, and took all the 3 one by one. Then she waited. 3 minutes felt like it had its own weather system. She looked down at the first test. 1 line appeared. Then, slowly, another. She checked the second test. 2 lines. The third, 2 lines again. Victoria set all 3 on the counter in a row and stood very still, staring at them. Her mind completely and totally blank. The way it goes when something happens that's too large to process all at once. A knock. Quiet, patient. "Victoria." She opened the door. Chang saw her face, saw the 3 tests lined up on the counter behind her. He went absolutely, completely still. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. He knelt. Not dramatically, just knelt. Right there on a bathroom floor in a penthouse in Hanam-dong, hands framing her face with the full, undivided attention of a man who had decided this moment deserved everything he had. "Is it?" "Yes," she said immediately. "Jae-won and I haven't been together in over 7 months. It's yours." Chung closed his eyes. When he opened them, she saw something she had never once expected to see in a face that controlled this well. Fear. Real, raw, honest human fear. "I know this wasn't planned," she started quickly. "I don't expect—" "Stop." His hands were warm and steady against her face. "Listen to me." His voice was low, completely certain. "This stopped being fake for me weeks ago. Maybe the night at the gala. Maybe the night you told me your story and I watched you be braver than anyone I have ever known. His thumb moved against her cheek. I am in love with you. Completely. Terrifyingly. And if you are carrying my child, that is not a complication. A pause. That is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Victoria's eyes filled. We've known each other a month. I know. This started as revenge. I know that too. He held her gaze, steady and certain and entirely unafraid now. Let's make it real. Not fake, not strategy. Real. You and me, and this baby, if you want that. She looked at him. This man who had appeared at the lowest point of her life and handed her back her power when she'd convinced herself it was gone for good. I want that, she whispered. I'm terrified, but I want that. He kissed her then, not the careful, restrained kiss of a man playing a role, but the full, honest, finally allowed kiss of someone who had been holding back for weeks and no longer had a single reason to. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. Real this time, he said. Real, she agreed. And for the first time in 5 years, Victoria Lawson felt completely, genuinely, without conditions, happy. 8 weeks later, she stood before a mirror in champagne gold, not white. She had worn white for J1. That had been a costume for a life she was never meant to live. This dress was warm and flowing and fitted softly over the gentle curve of her 12-week pregnancy. Chang's sister, Ji-yeon, stood behind her with barely contained tears. He cried this morning, Ji-yeon said. He thought I didn't see, but I saw. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Chang Mao cried. Don't you dare tell him I told you. Ji-yeon squeezed her shoulders. He has been gone for you since before he ever spoke to you. Go marry him. The ceremony was small. Family, close friends, no press, no spectacle, just the people who mattered, gathered in a courtyard garden strung with warm light, Seoul's skyline watching from just beyond the walls. Chung stood at the end of the aisle in a traditional hanbok, black and gold, looking like he had been built precisely for this moment. When he saw her, his entire carefully maintained face came undone completely. And he didn't try to put it back together. She walked to him. He took her hand. You look like everything I didn't know I was looking for, he said. You're going to make me cry before we even start, she said. Then let's start. His vows were steady and warm and entirely his own. Victoria, I promise to see you, not as a role or a function or a convenience, but as exactly who you are, brilliant, stubborn, braver than she ever gives herself credit for. I promise to remind you every single day that you were never broken, that you were simply in the wrong place. I will love you and our child with everything I have, for the rest of my life, without conditions and without end, she breathed. Chang, she said. I came to Seoul thinking this city had taken everything from me. And then it gave me you instead, on the worst night of my life, in the corner of a hotel bar. I promise to be your partner, not your project. To trust you even when it's hard. To build a family on truth instead of performance. Her voice broke, just slightly, just once. You showed me I was strong when I had completely forgotten. You loved me when I was broken and stayed while I healed. I choose you. Every single day. For the rest of my life. They kissed as husband and wife. And in the back row, uninvited, rigid, drowning in everything she had helped destroy, sat Jaewon's mother. Victoria caught her eye, smiled, and turned away. Because that woman and everything she represented no longer lived in Victoria's world. 5 years later, Victoria walked into Chang Mao Industries with a 4-year-old balanced on her hip and coffee in her free hand, moving through the lobby like a woman who had decided some time ago that she absolutely belonged wherever she chose to be. Her daughter, May, had Chang's sharp dark eyes and Victoria's dimples and a personality that the building's security team had quietly started referring to among themselves as a developing situation. Mama, is Baba in the big chair? Baba is always in the big chair. Chung's assistant waved them through with a smile. They took the private elevator up. Chung was mid-meeting. But the moment the door opened and he saw them, he wrapped the meeting up in under 60 seconds. May launched across the office. Chung caught her and spun her and buried his face in her hair while she shrieked with pure, uncomplicated joy. Over their daughter's head, his eyes found Victoria. The way he looked at her, still, 5 years later, made her chest ache in the best possible way. "My girls," he said, simple, complete. That afternoon, Victoria's phone lit up. Former tech CEO Kim Jae-won sentenced to 4 years in prison for investor fraud. SEO Yeon had left him 2 years ago when the money disappeared. His mother had publicly disowned him. His company had dissolved. He had gone, in 5 years, from one of Seoul's most powerful men to a cautionary story people told at dinner parties when the conversation turned to hubris. Victoria read the headline once, set her phone face down on Chang's desk. "What is it?" he asked. "Jae-won, prison." Chang watched her face carefully. "How do you feel?" Victoria considered it honestly. Looked at May, drawing a chaotic, joyful family portrait on a notepad. Mama, Baba, baby brother coming soon. Looked at Chang, watching her with those steady dark eyes that still, after everything, managed to make her breath catch. Looked at her own hands, capable, creative, entirely free. "I feel like he's a chapter I finished reading a long time ago," she said. "Like everything that happened was just the setup for this." She gestured at May, at Chang, at the life filling every corner of this room. "The real story started the night I met you. Everything before that was just what I had to survive to get here." Chung pulled her close, careful of the 6-month pregnant curve of her belly, and pressed his lips to her forehead. "Shall we go?" he said quietly. May looked up from her drawing with enormous, expectant eyes. "Ice cream, Mama," Baba promised. Victoria laughed. Full and real and completely unguarded. The kind of laugh that had taken 5 years to find again, and now came easily, every single day. "Then let's go." They left together, through the lobby of an empire, out into the warm gold light of Seoul. A family, loud and imperfect, and absolutely, unshakably real. Victoria Lawson had arrived in this city as someone's wife, a convenience, a passport, a woman told so many times she was broken that she had nearly believed it permanently. She had left that version of herself on a kitchen counter next to a wedding ring, and in its place had built something else entirely. A career Seoul respected on its own terms. A husband who chose her with full knowledge of every version of her. A daughter who would grow up never once being told she wasn't enough. A son arriving soon into a home built entirely on truth. Jae-won had tried to take everything from her. Instead, he had pushed her off a ledge she hadn't realized was a launchpad. And that right there, the life she was living, was the only revenge that had ever really mattered. If this story hit you somewhere deep, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps more people find these stories. Subscribe so you never miss the next one, because they only get more intense from here. And drop a comment below. Would you have walked out that night, or would fear have kept you in that penthouse? Tell me honestly. Tell me where you're watching from. This community spans the entire world, and I love knowing where my people are. I'll see you in the next one.